I want to thank everybody for coming here. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask Chief Drew to do the invocation, please, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And for those who have not been here in a while, we use this flag for the pledge.
Thank you for standing. Let us pray. O eternal, majestic God of all glory and creation, we thank you for your power and your wisdom. Dear Lord, grant us understanding, wisdom, and knowledge this evening as we conduct business for the city of Southport. We acknowledge you in all of our ways, for your ways are far above our ways and your thoughts are far above our thoughts. We ask for your eternal guidance. Lord, we ask that you continue to help those in western North Carolina and Florida that have been affected by the storms. Bless our city, bless our elected officials, and Lord, that you would bless our citizens. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chief Drew. And now I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And so we're moving into the agenda. I'm going to start this off by reading something so I don't forget 14 things. And this is basically why are we here? Why did we have this emergency meeting? It really is because we want to give direction to the staff as we go into negotiations with the county about the issue of EMS. In the past 24 hours, and especially in the past 8 hours, a whole bunch of additional information has come to me about different perspectives of all of this. And that is part of the issue right here, is to try to figure out what are the facts that are in front of us and how do we move forward and what's the game plan, both for the county and for the city. So what do we know? We know that tomorrow the city staff will be meeting internally to develop a response to the email received on October 15th regarding the franchise agreement dated July 1st, 2024. Now, whether or not that was the first email or not, we're trying to figure that all out, but that's what we know so far. With the county on the operation and franchising of our ambulance services. This is a policy issue, and the Board of Aldermen have authority over policy issues. At the conclusion of this meeting, the goal is to provide staff with direction on how to resolve this issue. I want to be perfectly clear. The City of Southport supports mutual aid responses. I have a lifetime of first responder stuff, and that goes without question. This city realizes and supports that there will be limited times where, for the good of the order, our ambulance services may be needed to support the county during emergencies. And most of all, the city has no interest in creating a divide with the county that will diminish our collective ability to solve regional problems. So, what do we know? We know that since approximately 1992, the city of Southport has had an agreement with the county for EMS issues, emergency service issues. That's 32 years. The city has been working under this franchise agreement with the county beginning with the city's emergency medical technician program, which is about here, and then there's the advanced EMT, and then there's paramedics after that. So there's 3 levels of those programs. 2 years ago, this was expanded to include the city's paramedic program. Both programs are financed exclusively by the taxpayers of Southport. It is true that during this long and successful partnership with the county, there were limited times when Southport equipment and personnel were temporarily staged outside the city limits. This decision was made in conjunction with the Southport's fire chief, or the on-duty supervisor. The new franchise agreement states that the entire Southport finance ambulance services will fall under the direct supervision of the on-duty county EMS supervisor, and that that supervisor will have the authority to send Southport ambulances to any needed mutual aid calls. Well, we already do that, so that's not a new thing. With the agreement of the but in the past we've done it with the agreement of Southport supervisor. Everybody said, we need this, yes, go. What is new is that the county EMS supervisor will, without the need of any consultation with Southport officials, be able to stage the city's equipment and personnel somewhere in the county, and as long as the supervisor wants. By agreeing to this addendum to the agreement, the citizens of Southport will be underwriting the full cost of a fully trained ambulance crew, and more importantly, it will dramatically increase the response time to our citizens. The city took on this financial burden to provide an extra layer of trained responders to our aging population and keep the response times below 5 minutes. That's the time limit to have a chance of really surviving a heart attack. I will now turn this over to the city manager, who will have a brief comments, and then to the fire chief to give us some more background information. At that point, the Board of Aldermen will be asking questions. And I want to thank the county manager, who was great. If you notice, there's flies every place in this building. It's crazy. The county manager was gracious enough to ask Brunswick County Human Services Director, Kathy Lynch, to attend tonight's meeting. And Ms. Lynch is sitting right there, and we've had a chat already. And so I've asked her to do me a favor, and that is, if she sees us going off track because we have misinformation, would she be so kind as to help us get back on track? And so with that, Stuart, you've got the helm.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a review of the County EMS Franchise Agreement Proposal. Okay, so this is a staff review of the proposal. Chief Drew, the city attorney, and the city manager and I all met to review the proposal that we received by email. First, please follow along. Our first duty is to protect the city of Southport citizens, which cannot be compromised ever, ever. The most important power of local government is the police power given to us by state constitution to protect our people for health, safety, and welfare. Now, the major issues when we looked at this agreement, we can focus in on the key phrase, a key paragraph, which is Section C of the proposed franchise agreement. There's new language that changes the current wording of the agreement and requires us to provide ambulance service to all areas lying within Brunswick County, omitting the previous phrase that was in the existing agreement that limits our service to our fire service district's designated territorial limits. Is everybody with me? This is a major shift. It also gives responsibility to the on-duty EMS supervisor for Brunswick County EMS to provide direction for the response and standby of all EMS resources within Brunswick County. This would include Southport. So those are the major issues of the agreement with the language changes, okay? That's a significant shift. Okay, so staff did an analysis. Let me get right to it. The county has an EMS service gap. It is trying to fill it with municipalities' staff. It's understandable. With increased countywide building, unless that building includes simultaneous EMS feasibility planning by the county as development grows, county impact fees assessed for increased staffing, equipment, satellite stations needed to cover the increased calls for service countywide the county will have an EMS service gap. It's just logical. If you have more buildings, more density, you have more service calls. If the service level isn't increased to cover those calls, you will have a gap. Nationwide, I mean, again, this is a collaborative effort. We're working with the county. We're trying to understand where this proposal is coming from. Nationwide, it is difficult to find enough volunteer and paid fire EMS folks. It's just hard. There aren't enough people coming into the profession. It's a difficult, hard profession that takes a lot of guts and character and takes a tremendous amount of staff, willingness and dedication. It's hard to find that level of dedicated employee. Now this, in my opinion, causes the county to shift their responsibility to fill this gap to municipalities, to take up the workload to cover service calls. But I don't think this is entirely fair to us. Again, our primary duty is to take care of our citizens. That's what I swore an oath on that Bible when I stepped up here to do. That's what all these guys did. Okay? So Chief Drew states that we are already working at full capacity to handle our current service level of load. We're already at capacity. Any increase in calls when we are already at capacity, or any diminution of citywide response time and service, would not meet the service level need we need to meet for our citizens. It's very clear, okay? So, I'm just simply pointing out an analysis of where we think this shift is coming from. It's not to blame, it's to understand. First seek to understand, and then we work it out. We'll work through it, okay? Now, possible recommendations. The county needs its own long-term plan that's not dependent on the municipalities, in my humble opinion. We would request the county to perform its own study internal to the county relating increased development in ratio to the calls for service needed for staffing, equipment, and station location. Simply shifting increased countywide workload to municipalities is not in Southport's best interest. Similar proposals are before other towns. We could, as another option, discuss this with the other towns and have a commonality of approach. Again, we're not enemies or adversaries. We've got to find a way to work to a solution, okay? This is too important. It's too critical to this community, to the health of this community. But since the shift seems to be on the municipalities, perhaps the municipalities could come together and approach them collectively. Finally, I don't have one on there, but in my humble opinion, if the county, maybe the county is assessing impact fees, but it needs to be more closely correlated with new development, which I think is the underlying cause of this. Okay? Anything? Okay. Next up. Okay. Well, Chief Drew would like to make some comments. Thank you.
Well, good evening to the mayor, the board of aldermen, and citizens. I stand before you this evening as the chief of fire and EMS operations with the city of Southport. My top priority is to offer the best services to our citizens at the most economical advantage. Saving lives and property have been my goal since serving this city in the fire service since 1991. I'd like to begin by telling each of you how we have gotten to the place where we are today by giving you a brief history. Prior to 1976 in Southport, the Gilbert Funeral Home ran medical calls with their hearse, which converted to an ambulance during non-funeral times. They had no certifications. It was a load and go situation. They loaded you and rushed you to the nearest hospital. In 1975, members of the Southport Fire Department, under the leadership of Chief Orman Leggett, decided to start the Southport Rescue Squad. Members of the Southport Fire Department assisted greatly. Fundraisers were held, equipment was purchased, and in 1976, the Southport Rescue Squad was founded and incorporated. Southport had the first certified ambulance in Brunswick County. Southport had the first emergency medical technician certified in the state of North Carolina. Southport also had the first certified water ambulance in the state of North Carolina. The squad was run for years completely by volunteers. They fundraised, and the city of Southport subsidized their budget. From 1976 into the 2000s, the squad prevailed, even with some very rocky waters. In 1992, Brunswick County began the 911 system. With this new 911 system, 4 advanced life support EMTs were hired by Brunswick County to cover the whole entire county. This was the beginning of our EMS system in Brunswick County. They had an ambulance staged in Bolivia with 2 quick response vehicles that assisted the rescue squads in the county. Once the EMS system began in '92, there was a major decline in rescue squads throughout our county. Town Creek Rescue Squad and Boiling Spring Lakes Rescue Squad were some of the first rescue squads to fold, and the county took control of their assets and their buildings. Soon after, Long Beach Rescue Squad folded, Leland Rescue Squad, then Charlotte. Calabash was one of the last municipal rescue squads to fold. The handwriting was on the wall. The county was taking over the EMS system very rapidly. This continued until the final rescue squads in Brunswick County were Southport, Bald Head Island, and St. James. Those 3 municipalities still have an EMS system. In 2016, I was approached by Mayor Robert Howard and then Alderman Todd Coring about the opportunity to merge the Southport Rescue Squad with the Southport Fire Department. Presented before the Board of Aldermen was a proposal to remodel the rescue squad building and spend over $1 million to have sleeping quarters and enhance the 1976 building. I immediately met with Chief of the Southport Rescue Squad, Tyler Johnson. Myself, Chief Coring, and Chief Johnson met on and off for approximately 2 months with members, officers of both departments, and we worked out an agreement to abolish the Southport Rescue Squad and have an EMS division within the Southport Fire Department. This plan from 2016 saved the taxpayers of Southport $1 million in that budget year, and since that time has saved much more money since its inception. Today, we are a seamless organization that dually trains all of our staff to perform fire and EMS services. Just today alone, we have responded to 2 cardiac arrest calls, one in the River Mist community and one on Jabbertown Road, that were completely textbook to perfection with the members that you see sitting in this building. On an average, our EMS division runs 12 to 15 calls in a 24-hour period. Since January 1st, our ambulance has transported 1,087 patients to hospitals with an average response time of 3 minutes and 45 seconds from the time the pager goes off until the ambulance is on scene, an average of 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The average county response time is 11 to 12 minutes. We currently staff an ambulance with 1 full-time EMT, 1 volunteer EMT, and a quick response vehicle with 1 medic. When the Southport Paramedic Program started 2 years ago, we discussed with county officials, and my question to them was this: how can we keep our units dedicated to the city of Southport? I was told by the county officials, they said, set up your program with a medic in a QRV, which is a quick response vehicle, and continue to use your ambulance, and you will not have to be on standby as much. Our program was instituted with this concept. This is what we are currently doing. Just what the county medical director, Dr. Sherrod, and the EMS department head, Lyle Johnston, told me to do. That is the program we instituted. Currently, the Brunswick County EMS system has 9 24-hour ambulances staffing the county with 2 peak ambulances. This is already a stressed system for the number of medical calls in this county. I have nothing negative to say about Brunswick County EMS. They are our partners and they assist us. On a daily basis, all medic ambulances in the county, there are times that they are tied up with patients. They have to call New Hanover County and Horry County for standby. This is because they have a stressed system. We have a population that is aging, and there are a lot of medical calls in Brunswick County. The EMS system in Brunswick County is stressed by the number of emergencies that happen on a daily basis. The past budget year, I presented to the City of Southport a plan to enhance our EMS system. I stood on these facts. Number 1, Brunswick County is a stressed system. Number 2, Southport is at the end of the county. You don't drop into Southport, you come here on purpose. Number 3, we do not have a dedicated county EMS truck in the city. And number 4, the county has an 11 to 12 minute response time. Therefore, we need to staff an ambulance and continue with our paramedic program that started 2 years ago. It was a very contentious budget cycle. I fought hard to have our current program for EMS because it is the best service for the citizens of Southport and the safest. If you're having a cardiac event, a stroke, or any other medical emergency, you want someone to your house in less than 4 minutes. That's the golden time. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're achieving. 3 minutes and 45 seconds, our average. And that was even during the road construction. That's the average for the month of October. The system that we have in place has been working. I have been evaluating our system on a monthly basis. I have met with command staff and officers every month since July to see what our total is that we're bringing in on revenues, our transport revenues, and we have been looking at our EMS system every month. We have been answering our calls. We have been handling business, even with the major road construction. I can't tell you how many lives have been saved just since July of 2024 by the dedicated members that are sitting in this building tonight. On July the 10th, 2024, I notified the Brunswick County EMS Director, Lyle Johnston, that the Southport ambulance would no longer be available to go on standby outside of our response area, as directed by the Board of Aldermen during the budget process. That if absolute necessary, we could send our medic unit in a QRV to assist, but the ambulance must remain in Southport for calls here. On August 26, 2024, I received a letter from Mr. Johnston stating these words, and I'm reading directly from the letter that he sent me. Chief Drew, I want to thank you and Chief Treadway for taking the time to meet with Max Smith and myself on August 1st to discuss the Brunswick County EMS system and the role that Southport Fire and EMS hold within the system. On July 10th, 2024, you sent me an email stating that the Southport ambulance would no longer be able to go on standby outside of Southport, but the paramedic QRV could assist if available. This was direction you received from the Board of Aldermen and the Mayor, as stated in the email and the meeting again yesterday. As discussed during our meeting, all EMS agencies within Brunswick County fall under the EMS system as outlined under North Carolina Administrative Code Section 13P.0200 EMS systems. As part of the Brunswick County EMS system, it is expected that any EMS units that are not currently assigned to calls can be requested at the discretion of the on-duty EMS supervisor for Brunswick County EMS to respond to a request for standby or call. Brunswick County will be preparing the franchise agreement for the current fiscal year this month. This was dated August 26th. And just wanted to make sure you have time to work out any issues you have within the city of Southport prior to us sending the franchise agreement for signature. None of this language was in any previous franchise agreements. Previous franchise agreements stated, our ambulance, all areas lying within its designated response territorial limits, not the entire county, would respond to those territorial limits. Also, additional language has been added to say that the on-duty county medic supervisor will provide direction for the response and standby of all EMS resources within the county. Additionally, it states we must use their selected software, which will change our whole operation. Our software is hooked up to our billing company. If we have to change softwares, we have to retrain everybody. We have to do all kinds of stuff to update. So, in closing, the language in this current franchise agreement is a grab of power by Brunswick County. Southport Fire Department has always been a good neighbor to Brunswick County. We are mutual aid partners. If there is an incident, we will respond to their call for help. We are not saying that we won't respond. However, dictating that a Southport ambulance should cover calls or standbys in Ash, in Longwood, in Navassa, in Northwest is completely preposterous. When the citizens of Southport are paying for this service and Brunswick County contributes $0. I have met with Ballhead Island and St. James officials, and they received the same franchise agreement on Monday, October the 14th, 2024 at 5:18 p.m., just like I did. They do not agree with this franchise agreement either. I've talked to the chief at Ballhead, and I've talked to the assistant chief of EMS operations at St. James, and they are not in agreement with this franchise agreement. Brunswick County, up until 2016, used to provide the city of Southport with $36,000 a year for EMS services. In 2016, they stopped providing any funding for EMS services with the city of Southport. Now, I understand fully that EMS is a county-run system, and Southport falls under the umbrella of that system. We have agreed to all of their regulations setting up our paramedic program. All of our medics are boarded and certified by the county through the county medical director. We work together with them, but this franchise agreement is far-reaching. My question tonight to the county is this: when Southport ambulance is tied up on a call, are you going to send a medic into the city limits of Southport to stand by our fire station? Not hardly. They haven't done it yet. Then why should Southport have to do something that the county is not willing to reciprocate? I appreciate the support of the city, the Board of Aldermen, and the citizens of Southport, and I'll gladly answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, the purpose of this meeting, as I stated in the beginning, is a fact-finding mission for the seven of us. So I'm going to turn it to, are there any questions from the board? Chief, you might as well not sit down. From the board as to, for the chief.
Chief, I have one. In essence, the county has grabbed our system, so to speak. But yet we still, the citizens of Southport, have to pay for that. The county's not putting any money into that. Is
That's
that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
We are already filling the gap for the county. They don't have to service us. We're providing them with a service they don't have to provide to us. We've been filling a gap forever. We are the original county seat, and yet people are forgetting that. We take care of our neighbors. We send our firefighters over to Bald Head with ridiculous amounts of assets and never ask for anything. We were the original county seat. We were the original people to take care of everybody. We've always been at the end of the earth. People realized that the other day when our roads got shut down. And our EMS service was essential, and they needed this to survive. I would even say that Oak Island depended on our EMS service. I'm sure Mr. Tom Gilbert went over there and picked up a body or two. But EMS it depended on the getting to Dozier Hospital or you would die to get to Wilmington. So things changed when the Swines Cut Bridge came in and Novant came in, and Oak Island decided they didn't need us anymore. They don't want to help pay for things anymore. So we're out on the island by ourselves now, and everything we've got seems to be taken left and right. So I'm reiterating a lot of what you've said. At what level does the emergency threshold kick in that they could take our assets? And is this just a wreck, or is this a explosion? I mean, what is the threshold there? I was reading the contract, but I couldn't quite figure it out.
Well, with the current franchise agreement, I mean, they can request us if they're tied up. They can request us for anything. It doesn't even have to be an emergency call. They can request us to go to Highway 211 and 17 and stand by for the whole county, and then direct our ambulance to a call wherever the call may come in at. That's what this current contract franchise agreement is stating.
But you're already doing that.
No, sir. As of July, we stopped doing standbys because I was directed by the board during the budget process to not do that anymore. And I let the 4th of July get over with, and on July the 10th, I sent an email to the county indicating that we would not do standbys anymore. But if they needed our QRV with a medic, they could request them to assist.
What happens if we say we're not going to do this? What are the consequences for that?
Well, I'd say that
No,
that's...
I mean, truly, because if we are looking to put our citizens first, as we were elected to do, what are the consequences that come down from on high?
I would say that would have to be a question answered by Brady, our city attorney, which we have been talking to him. And in mine and the city manager's meeting with Brady, I did ask him to research what ramifications if we refuse to sign the franchise agreement. You know, is there a way that we could have our own system? And he would have to research that through the general statutes. I don't know the answer to that question, really.
Chief, I have a question for you, and maybe Ms. Lynch can answer it for me as well. My understanding of North Carolina law is that the counties are responsible for EMS service, but not fire department services, where in Virginia it's just the opposite. Counties have to provide fire service, and EMS is however it's put together. So as I understand your statement and our conversations, is that I'm not sure that it's illegal for this county to do what they're doing. I'm not a lawyer, and I have not spoken to Brady. But the question of whether it's legal or not is really not the top question that has to be asked, is should they do it? They may be able to do it, but should they do it? If we've taken 1,000 calls off their plate, I don't see that in the other side of the equation in the discussion. All those calls for some big, some small, some moving people from hospital to back to their nursing homes, all those calls, the fall downs, it's traumatic for the person who fell down, who can't get back up, but not necessarily always hurt, but somebody has to run the call. Somebody has to get them up. And there's over 1,000 of those things, as Mark and you have pointed out, that we take and we pay for, and they don't have to. We've never relinquished the idea that every citizen in Southport pays taxes to Brunswick County, and we are entitled to their rescue squad as well. So we pay taxes to get rescue, which they do on occasion come to us when there's however that metrics works out. But we have taken a huge burden off their shoulders. And going forward, we have to go forward. Okay, now we know where we are today. So we have to figure out where we're going to go forward. And I'm suggesting to the Board of Aldermen that we may want to consider direction to the staff to go back to the county and work on a discussion that encompasses the entire points that we've just talked about. We've taken 1,000 calls off your plate, yet you want to move us without any, I really don't want the compensation. I mean, if we have to do it, then I do want the compensation, but it's not the money that, we're not looking to make money on this whole deal, because we're losing a couple $100,000 a year didn't we just buy or just order a brand new ambulance?
Yes, sir.
And what was the price for that bad boy?
450,000.
500,000? Okay.
Yes, sir.
That we have to, and we had to finance that, did we not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all of those things have gone into this program, and I'm looking to find out how we move forward with a deep breath, on both sides of the equation, because I've had heated conversation. I wasn't doing the heated conversation on the phone with people about this. And where do we go next on this whole issue? Robert, did you have a point?
Yeah, well, Lo, I'm taking a deeper breath than you. I'm taking a deeper breath. So, yeah, I probably do need to take a few deep breaths. City of Southport pays for 9 minutes. That's what we pay for. Our taxpayers pay for 9 minutes of your life that could end up over.
How'd you get to that?
Well, we have an average response time of 3.45. They have an average response time of 11 to 12. So I just, round it up. I got to 9 minutes. Our citizens told us that was something they were willing to invest in, and we did it. So, thank you. 9 minutes. And minutes matter. So, I am now should take a deep breath before I say this, but you asked the question, what do we know? And what I know is that Miss Pat and her band of thieves have dedicated, the band of thieves that are dedicated to overdevelopment of our county. Now, this board has shown you that is not who we are, okay? But her band of thieves have said that's who they are. They've proven it time and time again. So, politically, you might be there, but this is Southport. This is Southport. Our mayor showed up to Raleigh to fight for Southport. Aldermen showed up to Raleigh to fight for Southport. Instead, our commissioners have raped Southport of their ETJ. Okay? We know that. It's happened, went through the process. We no longer have an ETJ. Now they're attempting to take away, excuse me, I shouldn't even say take it away. They're taking advantage of our planning for their destruction. Their destruction. Everything that's happening to Southport is happening outside of our city limits at this point, right now. Indigo Phase 2, county, right now. any other development that was in our ETJ county. We prepared. We provide 3.45 minutes response time on average. I think that's a BFD. I think that's a big idea for our people. I mean, short of having a foam finger that says everything I want it to say, I don't know what else to say to the county.
I'm sorry? You got...
I'll also apologize.
Alderman Davis?
First of all, I am sure it is emblazoned in Chief Drew's memory that when we first started going over the budget, his budget was one of the first things. And boy, did we grill him about every penny. And we came away fully convinced that we should buy and spend what he was asking for, that Southport needed it, and this was what we were committed to do. We were not committed to taking care of the mess that the county commissioners, frankly, have made. You know, as you pointed out, first, there was literally a seizure of the extraterritorial jurisdiction without, obviously, very much of an analysis of what the far-reaching effects would be. And then you don't have to drive very far to see massive development. And you don't have to go very far back in your memory to know what that means. Were you flooded out? Did you see water everywhere? Did you see bridges washed out? All of that tracing directly back to massive overdevelopment without planning for the appropriate infrastructure, which includes EMS services. I'm tired of strong-arm tactics, and I want to know how to fight back, because I think there's 7 of us up here who are ready to do that.
Yes?
Could you turn your thing off, please? Thank you. Alderman Kelly.
During our budget cycle this year, when we were going over the EMS budget, one of my sticking points was exactly what Chief Drew did, was the fact that I was not okay with what I felt was double taxation for our citizens of Southport, because we are already paying the county for EMS services, and we are also paying for City of Southport EMS services. The City of Southport does a fantastic job responding to our citizens. One of my sticking points was, in fact, that I was made aware that we were being stationed outside of City of Southport during occasions, which increased our response time significantly within the city. Thankfully, as far as I know, it wasn't a detriment at that point, but it was just a vision into the future. I sat in this seat and I said I would not support having an EMS in Southport if we were going outside of our jurisdiction, because that is double taxation for our citizens without the recouping of the time, the 9 minutes that we were promising our citizens when we took on that budget line item. I believe we were able to get a grant for some of our EMS services in this budget year. However, that is not something that we are promised year after year. We as a city and we as a board, from the direction of our citizens, decided to move forward with our own EMS services. I am concerned about losing our autonomy, not that we wouldn't go, as you said, to do mutual aid, not that we wouldn't go to assist. I am concerned that we are being double taxed for EMS services that are then not being provided in the way that we were told they would be. As I look at our EMS budget for fiscal year 2025, I think I'm looking at $515,773. That's a significant investment that this city has made into our EMS services. We rely on our EMTs, our medics, and all of our firefighters to perform these services. When we were an island just a couple of weeks ago, if we had been waiting for the county to get to us, it scares me to think about what we would have been dealing with at that point in time. I applaud our first responders as a whole in the city of Southport. I think they've done a fantastic job. I personally was, during our budget cycle, very, very vocal about the fact that our EMS service going outside of our jurisdiction, to me, meant it didn't make sense for us to even have one. However, 9 minutes is a big deal. So we need to figure out how to protect that, or the county needs to start footing the bill.
Alderman Lay.
When we were going through our budgets, one of the things we talked about was response times. Southport, we're not exactly the youngest kids on the block. I'm one of the older ones. For somebody that has had a situation where I've flatlined, minutes make a difference. If somebody doesn't understand that, let me say it again. Minutes make a difference, a big difference. There's a hell of a difference between 3.5 minutes and 8, 9, or 10 minutes. That's what's called death. Now, our people respond. They're there. They get there quickly. They know what they're doing. They take care of you. You might not have that other 6 or 7 minutes for somebody to get here. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I'm going to be the peacekeeper.
Alderman.
I'm going to be a good guy.
Alderman Spencer.
While Brother Lay gets, calms down. Good job, Mr. Lay. A deep breath. We've got an area, we don't just serve the city limits of Southport with our emergency, do we, Chief? Do we look at the address when the ambulance call comes in and say it's not in Southport, we're not going to do that?
No, sir.
How far out do we go, and where do we mesh with the county? How far do we serve outside our borders to assist in our area of Brunswick County? How far do we go?
The EMS district is the same as the fire district.
And it's
So
only
we're
gonna get-
already answering calls
and
in
so
the county.
We're filling a gap for the county.
Yes, we're already
They are
answering
not,
calls.
I love Miss Pat. Don't always agree with her. The board, they're not demons. We can negotiate. We got to talk to them. So we have to negotiate. We can't strong arm here. We're going to have to get along with each other in the future. With the county, I appreciate you being here. We would like to have our own district and let us take care of it. And the county can enjoy the benefit of that savings. That's a big thing, that they don't have to come and fill our gap. And this won't happen, but we're not going to sell our equipment and give it to them. Or, we're not going to pass it either.
The previous franchise agreement stated that we would agree to furnish and provide continuing ambulance service to all areas lying within our designated response territorial limits.
And I think
And they scratched that and they put Brunswick County to open up the whole county. It needs to go back to state our designated response territorial limits.
Chief Drew, what is, if you put a pin in Southport, what is the farthest distance within this county from Southport? Is it Ash?
I would probably say Ash or Longwood. Yeah, Ash.
How long does it take you to get there when you're roaring along with the siren?
With a siren, I'd still say it would be 45 minutes to an hour response with the traffic.
So you got to get out there, and then you got at least 45 minutes back to a hospital. That's a lot of time away from the citizens of Southport.
They're bringing back a dead body.
Oh, God. Well, I hear what you said there.
It's a funeral for you.
Yeah, but it can also be broken leg or something like that. But at any rate, that's 45 minutes out, 45 minutes back, hour and a half, plus the time to treat people when you get there, if it's an accident or a fall or a broken leg or something. And that's that much time that people in Southport better stay healthy.
I mean, we're the last city to have an emergency EMS service. Is that correct?
St. James and Bald Head Island still
Okay,
have.
all right.
Yes.
How many calls has the county run in the city of Southport? Do we have that stat?
I can get that stat for you. I don't think I have that available tonight, but I can get.
I'd be
now,
interested.
in the county's defense, if our medic unit is tied up on a call in the city, you know, the next available would be 2 of our firemen jumping on the second out ambulance, and they may not be medic certified, but the medic from the county would respond to that second or third call.
Right, and
there are times that we do have 3, 4, and 5 calls going on at one time. We've got both ambulances out. We've got a fire truck. I might be out. Chief Treadway might be out at a call, first responding until we can get somebody on scene.
Well, and I think that just goes to the point of how much we are providing that the county then doesn't have to provide. So I would be interested to see what the county is actually doing for us, because we're already paying for it.
Yes.
How close is the nearest county EMS station?
Well, you have Base 4 is across from St. James city limits behind Generations Church. You have Base 5, which is at the Oak Island Fire Department at the foot of, you got Base 7 at the Oak Island Fire Department at the base of the bridge, and then you have Medic 5 at Boiling Spring Lakes. However, recently, in the month of October, Medic 5 and Medic 7 have been out of service multiple times. They don't have staffing. So there's been no medic unit at Oak Island or Boiling Springs. There's only been one in service at St. James. And unfortunately, I mean, I have statistics of how many times they've been out of service in the month of October. And they have not even provided an ambulance there.
While you're looking,
Quite a few
does the
times.
county have in its current budget any kind of funding to increase personnel and increase the things that attract additional personnel, like better salaries, better benefits, better equipment?
I can't answer that. I work for the city. I'm not paying attention to what's going on in the county.
Mr.
What we
Mayor,
do
I'm
know,
I'm not looking for a job at the county.
yeah, thank you. You got a job here a long time.
Can Alderman Davis's question be answered? Go ahead, ma'am. Could I ask you to step up there, because it's being streamed. They can't hear you.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening. The county is continually hiring, and so it's every, I think, 2 months now, we have a new recruit class coming through, and we're hiring people that have not ever been in EMT before, and those that have been trained but teaching them the Brunswick County. In the last couple months, we've had 10 people come through. The last class, I think we had 6 people, and then we're planning for another class. So it's something that we continually do. You're right, this is a very challenging job. How long somebody can do it really just depends on the individual, depends on what they've experienced. And so sometimes people have to go to a different career because they need a change. They cannot continue to take the stressors of the things that you see every single day. So yes, we do continually try to recruit. To answer the other question regarding the number of times that Brunswick County, in the last quarter, I was able to pull some quick data today. I can always go back in and do a little bit deeper dive, but what I could pull. In the last quarter, so July 1st through September 30th, the county has responded to 44 calls in Southport. And the reason the number's low is because you're right. Your current ambulance and your team does a great job. And it's only when Southport can't respond that the county is then coming. So we're not going to have really high numbers. If you have really high numbers, I mean, there's a lot going on, and the Southport trucks are not able to continue to serve the area. There was another question. I was trying to keep track of the questions so I could answer them. The data that I have for the times that the county has responded, and when we're responding, we're not having a truck here. The Southport trucks are taking calls. You're out responding to the needs. The county's average response time to Southport, not having a truck locally here, is 8 minutes and 24 seconds, and that was in the last quarter. So, is it 3 minutes? No, it's not. But it's also not locally right here. You're in my backyard, essentially. I live down the road as well. So, I understand the passion of this group and wanting to make sure that your citizens are taken care of. I'm one of them. So yes, if I have an issue, I really want someone to be there timely. But in order for the system to work, it's an EMS system, and so it can't be partitioned, off, and where you have this group just over here. So if we had that, where I think someone mentioned, can we just not have our own system? There's one county system, and it's the county system, and I believe that's by statute. And I can go look in my phone. I have the statute there that says there's one system. And the reason there's one system is that so you can move all of the players around to make sure that we're able to respond to everybody's emergency in a timely fashion. We all know that there are certain times of the year that the call volume increases. 4th of July here is a very busy time. But then other times our population goes down a little bit with the visitors and that. But to have a system where you have this group over here, not part of it, if you're not part of the system and all of the staff are taking care of something else, and then you or your neighbor or somebody has an emergency and you're not part of the rest of the county system, who's looking after that person? And so that's the 44 times that the county has come out to. It has to be a whole system where we're able to move the resources. Is the county wanting to come and take over and tell you what to do? Absolutely not. The EMS department is one of my departments. I don't want to come and take over what you're doing. It's what you're doing. You're doing a great job, but we do have to look at the system as a whole. And so, if all the trucks are out and responding to other emergencies, and it's down to if there's 3 trucks, and we're going to ask for standby to come to a location so that we can cover other people. And and once the other trucks are released, then you're back to your location. It's not to decrease what is being provided to Southport, but you are part of the county system, and so you operate under our Dr. Sherrod. So we have the agreement with Dr. Sherrod, and that's how the paramedics have their orders. They follow those orders that are issued by the doctor, and so it's part of it's how the system has to work in order to move all the parts to make sure that we're able to care for everybody. I know your priority is Southport, and we wouldn't move and ask someone to go to standby if for no reason. Does that make sense?
So one of the questions I'm going to be asking the staff, just so you know, is for the staff to inquire of the county if we dissolve the EMS system and you have to pick up the 1,000 calls, how's that going to impact your system? Because I keep hearing only one side of the story. Understaffing on your side means we have to support you because you're understaffed. Now, whether you have to raise salaries, I really, that's a management issue that's all yours, but you have a tremendous turnover rate. The question is your turnover, and I don't know the answer, is your turnover rate more or less than the average of rural area, areas like this area, I won't say rural, but let's face it, this county is 1,000 square miles, and a lot of it is rural. So those would be questions that I would be asking the staff to look at, because I keep hearing, and I don't want to make this confrontational, I truly don't. You're a resident here. That the county has a problem staffing, so we're going to take you and move you. And we don't have that larger discussion about, if we just say, we can't afford to do that. We can't afford to be the backbone of the county with our tax base, which we can go into 20 minutes of discussion about sales tax and the fraction of the sales tax that we get, and the way the whole thing is set up. But our funding streams are very limited by state statute. It has nothing to do with the county, but by state statute. And we're squeezing money out of the system to have this, to have it go for the whole county. And the county not recognizing those 1,000 calls. I truly want to know, you'd have to put another rescue squad here somewhere to pick it up. And that would be on your backs. If that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do.
Just, can we clarify the 1,000 calls, the 1,087 calls is per what? Quarter, year, month?
That's 1,087 transports. That's not calls. It's more calls than that, because every call we go on, we don't transport.
But
that's 1,087 transports since January 1. Brian, is that correct? Was it? It was from January 1, right?
Chief Drew, do you happen to have the stat about how many calls you've done? And they said 44 within the last quarter. So can we do apples to apples? Can we look at that quarter also?
Are we talking about since July, or
I think that's what was it July 1 to
July 1st through September 30th.
Okay, July 1st through September 30th. Can you pull that up, Brian? How many
I think it
EMS
would
calls
just be
we've had?
nice
I
to
also
see.
have a,
That's okay. I just think if we're talking about 44 calls, we need to look at what Southport is doing in the same period of time to really compare apples to apples there.
so, yes. Do you mind? May I?
Yes, you may,
Thank
as long
you.
as you're nice.
So, as long as I'm nice?
Yes.
I'm-
Robert, go right ahead.
How many times are you calling Bald Head Island to support the folks in Ash?
I'm not sure where it's come in that we're asking you to support the folks in Ash. When, with the franchise agreement, the purpose of it is, yeah, I know what the language says. So I'm familiar with the language.
So you're not calling Bald Head Island off of their island?
I don't.
And probably not calling St. James out of their gates?
No, we have called St. James to go stand
Okay.
by. It's unrealistic to call Bald Head to come off the island, so that you can't, that's not apples to apples. But we have called St. James to go to standby as well.
How does that
how many-
work when you call St. James, since they're all volunteer? And presumably, the EMTs are watching the ball game at home.
We're calling them for standby, just for that coverage until another truck becomes available. So when a truck gets on a call, it's gone out there, and they're going to somebody's house. They may take that individual to the hospital, or they may go there, they may be released. As soon as that truck is released, if we have another truck on standby, then we're releasing that standby truck.
Does standby mean you call our station and say, wait for a call, be ready? Or do you you send the truck somewhere?
If we're calling for standby, typically it's asking them to go to a particular location. So for the Southport location, it would be 211 and 17, or 87 and 17. As soon as one of those other trucks is released from whatever they're doing, then you don't have to go to them. We say you're released from standby.
And where do those trucks go? Do they just go sit in the gas station parking lot until they're called?
I don't know exactly where they park. I'm not gonna. Yeah. So.
Okay, so that, just for the record, the staff is shaking their heads yes, that they just go sit in a parking lot until they're called.
Well, when I have gone from here to Route 17 on 211, even when traffic was light, we all remember that back in the day, when traffic was light, it took 15 minutes.
Alderman Mostow, go ahead.
I think we've said a lot. I think staff probably can infer direction of what we are. I think, and to put a fine point on it, and you can tell, we're having trouble reconciling that we pay the same county taxes as everybody else, and then we're also creating a better coverage for our citizens out of our own taxes, that we would then have to relinquish that. We can't reconcile that. Is what the problem, I mean, that at the end of the day for us, I feel like, and it boils down to the response time, and that's why we created what we did. That's why our chief brought it to us, and why he believed in it. And so I think at the end of the day, if we're here to give direction to staff, then I think I can speak for myself and say that we need to go back and say no to this. And if Charles was satisfied with the last agreement that he had, or if he needs a change in that last agreement, then I think y'all work on that, staff works on that, and then we can circle back if you need us to because if it is policy, and then we move forward like that. I don't know what time, how long you're needing to get this back to you. I saw that it's the date is like June 30th, so I'm assuming the other one's been expired then for a while. It probably has a date in it like that.
The other one stays into effect until
A new one. It has
the
the
new
new
one,
one.
yes,
Okay.
is signed.
Okay, so
So you agree that if we can't come to reach an agreement with the county, then we will likely dissolve our system?
we'll likely not give
We're
the
already
county.
paying for
Right,
it, save our
right,
people money.
right.
Not save their lives, because minutes matter, and we're talking a difference of 9 minutes.
Well,
But I believe, I'm just saying,
well,
what we would like to do is reach an agreement that's reasonable for the
that's-
people of South.
That's what I think that we need.
However, what we've been proven by the county commissioners to date is that they're not the most reasonable human beings.
Okay, we gotta move forward and come to some kind of conclusion here. Mark, go ahead.
At the end of this document, you have Chairman Randy Thompson's signature, and he hasn't signed it yet. But have the county commissioners reviewed this agreement?
So when we draft the agreements, staff prepare the agreements, they're reviewed by legal, and then we send them out to whoever, whether it's a contract, a franchise agreement, whatever it is, we send it out to the party in which we want to engage in business with. And then, once you sign it, then we would send it to the commissioners to sign.
So did you originate this document, or someone underneath you in a department below you? I apologize.
We worked with Lyle, we all worked on it. It was a joint agreement that we all worked on. Yes.
But what I'm hearing is the county commissioners may not have seen this document at this time.
Probably not, no.
May.
When you worked on this, you said, departments and so forth worked on this. Did you have anybody from Southport involved?
We did not have anyone from Southport. The point of this, the document, and I think, is to make sure that there's coverage for the county. It's not to pull the resources from Southport at our women, at any minute, just to do it to cover another area. It's when there are a number of calls and we need to pull on that resource to help ensure that everybody else is safe as well.
Okay, to try to wrap this up, because we need to give direction. So I'm going to entertain a motion, okay, that we ask staff to re-engage, to actually engage, not re-engage, because we haven't been engaged, to engage the county, talk about those 1,000 calls, ask them how they would manage that if we weren't in existence, and try to see at the staff level if there's any room for discussion about how this would work with some more parameters on it, or how this would work.
And Mr.
At
Mayor,
the same time, all of you, November 5th, you have the opportunity to call anybody you want on the county board, the county commissioners, and ask them what they think about this. Now, if they don't know what about it, I know that Mr. Thompson knows about it, because I heard that. I got a call as I was coming up the steps here. Not from him, but somebody just talked to him. But, I'm sorry, do you want to say something, sir?
I want to make one more concession. The county pays St. James $17,500 a year for their EMS services for responding outside their gate, and the county pays Ballhead Island $300,000. And the county does not make Sunny Point Fire Department respond outside their gate when they have a ship, even though they're in the paramedic system.
Why are they stiffing us?
Well, we can, that is part of the discussion, Alderman Davis. We have to take a deep breath again, go back. I'm going to be asking I'm going to be asking you all to ask the city manager to go and engage as quickly as possible, like tomorrow. We already have one meeting set up on Thursday or Friday? Friday. And to bring all these facts together, I would like, if the city fire department can get the total number of calls, how many transports, what that looks like, and then we can bring that to the county at the staff-to-staff level. At some point, as the signature says, this is a policy issue, and the people that I believe that make policy in the county is the county commissioners. They should be made aware of this. I'm not asking you to call them and yell at them. If they don't know what's going on, then they don't know what's going on. But make them aware of it. Make them go look it up and see and get an answer as to, do they support this idea that we're going to be sending our rescue? And Ms. Lynch and I had this conversation before the meeting started. I knew it was 17 and 211 sitting in a parking lot. I knew that. But that's on a good day, 15 minutes, and low, that would be at an average of over 60 miles an hour, but I just letting you know that. So it's really like 30 minutes on a good day to get back here, to get to you, because remember the reason why we sent it out there is there's nobody between us and there. So that brings us to the other issue that the county commissioners need to look at, and looking over the horizon as to, we have, if I know the number correctly, we try to, at peak times, 11 units. Is 11 units the right number? Because ordering fire trucks, which I believe the county is doing, Chief, how long do we have to wait? 2 years to get ours? 3 years. So you have to look over the horizon. This is something people are unfamiliar with. If you think you're going to grow and you have unchecked development, then you have to figure out what that unchecked development is going to look like. And you have to order the equipment 3 years in advance, and then you got to find people that man it. So all of those issues need to we have to have a professional and rational conversation about how that happens. And as we've been sitting here, we've had at least 2 EMS calls go out. And no, we didn't stage that. So, do I hear a motion to ask the staff to go do
I
that?
would just like to add one thing
Okay,
to
yes, ma'am.
that. I'd like for us to also talk to our city attorney to see what the the recourse that we talked about and what possibly we could do. So maybe we don't have EMTs on an ambulance. Maybe we just have medics on an ambulance. Maybe we stick an EMT on a fire truck so our fire trucks don't get reallocated across the county. Our EMTs are on fire trucks then. They go to a call from a fire truck rather than an ambulance, and the county can come in and transport on their ambulance. So we can get to them and stabilize, and then the county can buy more ambulances and do it their way. So we potentially have some options, but I would love for Brady to take a look at what those options actually are.
Okay. Noah, did you get all that jibber jabber that we just gave you? Okay. So that we can put it in some kind of package to give to the city manager to go forth and do good work? And then it'll come back to this board for a policy decision. In the meantime, the board has the opportunity also to engage with county commissioners and chat about how we're going to do this. There's a lot of stuff over the horizon that we have to look at. As you have more density in what used to be the ETJ, you have more impervious soil. In some parts of that storm water drains into Southport. We have to now fix our system to accommodate more water than we ever thought was ever going to come to us. And those are all the things you think over the horizon about that we collectively, the whole region, has just not been used to doing yet. And our mission is to do that over the horizon thinking and bring points to the commissioners, to ourselves, to our state representatives of how we're going to do that. So I guess we should probably have a vote since we made a motion.
Was there, I don't know that there were any motions or first or second. I'll make the motion as stated.
Second.
Okay. And then I'd like to just discuss,
We're at that moment that you can discuss it.
So, why do we continue to give grace in situations where there is none given? Southport continues to be used and abused. St. James is benefiting from our sales tax, and so is the rest of the county. So, we fight as a group to save you money. We don't want to raise taxes, but we have to. We have to because 9 minutes matter. So I just, we continue to be taken advantage of, and at what point are we collectively and the city, its citizens, because y'all are more important than we are, frankly. I don't think Miss Pat would take my call. But when her phone's ringing, or not ringing, I should say, it's me calling.
So to answer your question, Alderman Carroll, we're not at that point yet. That could be the end point. Staff would be let go, potentially, or staff could be reassigned to trucks. There's a lot of options here. People's response time could be 9 minutes. We have all kinds of numbers thrown out there. It'll be something more than 3 and 3/4 minutes. We know that. And so how that's all going to work out, that'll be a hard policy decision to make. But we're not there yet. We're still in the discussion point at both levels, at the staff level and at the elected officials level. And that's where we have to keep our focus on of how we're going to do this. Ms. Lynch, I should know this answer and I don't. I saw that the document was dated July 1st. We got it on the 15th of October. That means we've been running on the old thing. Is there a drop dead date on this thing for us to do this? Go ahead, please.
When it was sent out to Chief Drew, Lyle had asked to, give him time to review it and then to contact us with any comments or questions or things that we needed to discuss if there were things that were not, that there were questions about. He ask for an answer by today, but obviously there's a lot of questions here, and so if we need to have more time to have some of those discussions, we would obviously like to have an agreement put in place sooner than later, but understand that there are some changes, which is why we sent the copy that outlined the changes.
So
What happens if we don't get the agreement in the time frame that you require?
I can't answer that question.
can we all agree we're comfortable, can this board currently, right now, agree we're comfortable with the way it was? I just want to know,
yes.
because if we
So-
can vote on the way it was and
So-
agree to that, then
At this moment.
that's the direction of staff.
At this moment, we would like to send a courteous arm out to the county and say we would like to continue to help you in the shortfall to provide service in the areas that we have been providing service. And we won't even ask, I don't know, might not even ask for any money to do that.
But we might not go that far.
We haven't gotten any so far,
Wait a
We
so.
haven't had any for 17 years.
Right.
So, yep. So what you'll have is a borderline. If you get to that attitude, if you're not in the city limits, you won't get service. There's a gray area that we're going to have to.
Ma'am, this is not,
It's
this
okay.
is not public comment.
Thank you.
Ma'am, this is not public comment, please. This is for us to have a discussion in front of you so you can hear what's going on, okay?
So we've been pretty good at handling our business in that territory. We're probably as good as anybody. I would say we probably train a lot of people that end up going to the county. We are probably the training ground for your employment, maybe. So we build them up, and then they go to get paid, generally.
I'm also,
Chief, you're good with the previous agreement and arrangement, correct?
Yes, sir. I feel like
So
the
if-
previous agreement gives me as the fire chief or our officer that's on duty standing to say, yes, we can do this, or no, we cannot. But this agreement that's before us doesn't give us that standing. I do want to say, Mayor, that I do, once I sent the email back Tuesday, Wednesday morning, the health director and the assistant county manager reached out to me, and they plan to meet with myself and the city manager this Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at our station to try to iron some of these differences out. That was David Stanley that reached out to me, and I think the county manager was on the email as well. So this Friday, we're supposed to meet to talk about the verbiage and the wording of the contract.
So, Alderman Carroll, I actually knew that was happening. So the reason why obviously the board can vote anything they want to do. But I would caution that we allow the chief and the manager and the staff to work on it through this week. They know what our hope is, and then they'll come back to us, and then we'll have to make some hard decisions after that. I don't want to hamstring them in their discussions.
That was not my intention. I just want people to know that this board is united. We are willing to give mutual aid. That's not part of this conversation. We have sent our people over to Bald Head Island twice in the last few years, very willingly, in
the last month.
Okay, excuse me. I mean, come on. I'm fighting for you. But we didn't get $300,000 either. So, it feels pretty good to be the people that are doing for others and not getting anything for doing so.
Just remember, Alderman Carroll, once you take that silver coin, they own you, okay?
Chief Drew, just because you're up there, can you go to the next slide? I think there's a slide that shows our upcoming alderman meetings. So I would ask the board that as we're talking about making decisions and staff going off to iron out these issues, that perhaps we look at a deadline of maybe the November 14th meeting to give them enough time to come through, or maybe it's the November 4th meeting. where we can then add this back to the agenda, so we're not doing another special meeting for this. And that way the county has a timeline from us as well. So everybody's kind of on the same page to understand what the timeline looks like.
The contract has to come back to you. I can't sign the contract.
No, I
so,
understand that,
yeah.
but then so we have a meeting already on November 4th. Let's
Right.
have that as our drop dead date for it to come back to us, rather than going, oh my gosh, we have this, we have to go have a meeting tonight.
So my
3
question,
days notice,
so my
sorry.
question is, you've had those discussions with the county. Is the 4th the right date or the 14th?
Well,
I would think we want to give a little more fudge room in there
Yeah,
in
we're-
case we get to some point that needs some research or something.
Yeah, we're meeting this Friday, and hopefully we can get something ironed out. But I would say the 14th
Okay.
would be my guess.
Would you be amenable to that, Alderman Kelly?
Yes, I think that puts us all on the same page for it.
Okay.
And gives staff timeline as well as the county timeline for that.
All right. Noah, you good? Me? Noah.
Before you adjourn, I do have the answer. So July 1 to September 30th, in that quarter, we had 593 calls. 593 calls, and the county responded 44 times because we were tied up. So that's the number of calls in a quarter.
That is great work.
I will entertain a
Mr.
motion.
Mayor,
I'm sorry?
you had a motion on the floor. Do you want to continue with
Yes,
that or
I guess we
withdraw
do have
that?
to vote on that. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous, sir. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.